7.8c, we are going to look at a difference of squares and factor them. Difference, remember, means subtract. When it says squares, it's meaning it's going to be something squared minus something squared. Okay, before we look at the pattern, we're going to go ahead and factor it using the methods we've used before. I'll do the box and then I'll do by grouping. And then when we look at the pattern, you can decide if you want to use the pattern or you can group or whatever you would like to do. Okay, so let's look at this first one here. I can see this is 4x squared. There's no common factor. So if I want to use the box method, let me set it up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put the 4x to the second here and the minus 25. I'm going to multiply a times c. That's negative 100. Okay, and then because there's no middle term, they have to add up to 0. So what is that? 10 times negative 10? So I'm going to put 10x and negative 10x, or vice versa. Okay, let me take out a common factor. If I take out the common factor on this row, I get 2x. And then I'll fill in the blanks. 2x times 2x is going to give me 4x to the second. 2x times positive 5 is going to give me 10x. See, 2x times negative 5 is going to give me negative 10x. And then let me check. If I do negative 5 times positive 5, I get negative 25. So this is probably correct. So I got the factors 2x plus 5 times 2x minus 5, which looks good. Now let's say I did this by grouping. Let's do the next one by grouping. Okay, again, I look and see there is a coefficient on the x squared, so a is not equal to 1, and there's no common factor, so I'm going to split the middle term, even though weirdly there is no middle term. Okay, let's start this. If I do a times c, I get negative 9. Because there's no middle term, they have to add up to 0. So let's do 3 times negative 3. So I'm going to put plus 3x minus 3x, which adds up to 0, which is why there's no middle term, and I'll bring down the minus 1. When I'm grouping, I look at the first two terms and I take out the 3x. I'm going to bring down the minus sign. Let's see, if I check the second two terms, there's nothing to take out, so I'm going to take out a 1, which is going to make it 3x plus 1. And then if I write that in factored form, I have 3x minus 1 times 3x plus 1. Okay, now the question is, could I have factored this to this without doing all that work? Because this is a special kind of factor. Okay, if I look at the original problem again, what was I squaring? I was doing 3x to the second minus 1 to the second, and that's why it's called a difference of squares. The pattern for this is going to be, if it's 3x to the second minus 1 to the second, one of them is going to be 3x minus 1, the other one's going to be 3x plus 1, so that the middle term cancels. If I look back at this one here, I'm going to think, what did I times to get 4x to the second? I did 2x times itself, and I did 5 times itself. So then the pattern is going to be, I had one of them with 2x minus 5, one of them with 2x plus 5, and then the middle term canceled out. So we're going to use that pattern to factor some of these if we happen to notice they're a difference of squares. Okay, so let me look at this first one. This is 25x to the second minus 49, which looks like a difference of squares because there's no common factor. Okay, now what do I square to get 25? Oh, it's 5x times 5x. And then what do I multiply to get negative 49? Positive, negative. 49 is 7 times 7. Since it's 5x plus 7 and 5x minus 7, the middle terms will cancel, and this is my factored form. And again, if you notice the pattern, you can factor it right away. If you don't, you can do it using the box method or the grouping. Okay, let's look. This is 9x to the second minus 121, so it looks like a difference of squares. Okay, if I do 9x to the second, that's 3x times 3x. Since it's negative 121, that's got to be a positive and a negative, and it's 11 times 11. And you could multiply it to check, but because of the pattern, I know it's going to work. This looks like a difference of squares too. Okay, since this is x to the second, it's x times x. This is negative 64, so it's got to be a positive and a negative. To get 64, 8 times 8. And remember, the middle terms cancel. That's why there's nothing there. Okay, x to the second, x to get -1. It's got to be a positive and a negative, and it's 1 times 1. And then the middle terms cancel, which is why it turns out like this. So if you happen to see a difference of squares, you can use the shortcut to factor it if you would like. Okay, the rest of this assignment is factoring that's all mixed up. So make sure you think about which method would be the most appropriate. And then check your answers from the solutions posted on the calendar to make sure you're getting them correct.